Good day and welcome to the II-CIA Prepare to Pass webinar. My name is Kelly Quinn and I will be your host for today's broadcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping tips. First of all, if you experience any technical issues at any point today, please press the F5 key on your PC keyboard or the refresh keys on your Mac to refresh your console, and that typically will resolve most issues. If you continue to have any issues, you may send us a message in the chat feature in the console. It's also recommended that you close out any other programs that may be open on your computer, such as your email, to ensure that you have the maximum bandwidth to view the program today. If you continue to experiencing any challenges, again, please just send us a message using the help widget on your console for technical assistance, and we will work with you in the background to help resolve your issue. We will also be taking questions at the conclusion of the presentation if time permits, so please feel free to submit your questions at any time through the Q&A widget. At the end, we'll also be providing you with a special discount offer for attending today and doing a drawing for a free CIE seminar. So make sure to stay till the end to see if you may be the lucky winner. All right, so as we're kicking off here, I'd like to introduce our two presenters for the day. The first presenter, his name is Jonathon Jones from iGlobal, and Jonathon is the Director of Member Experience, and he'll be sharing some helpful information about the CIA exam and the registration process. And then our next presenter is Vicki McIntyre. Vicki is the president of First Plus Resolutions, Inc. She's also one of our premier CIA instructors and has helped candidates for more than 12 years successfully pass the CIA exam. So before I turn it over to Jonathon, we are going to go over a couple quick polling questions so we get a better understanding of who our candidates are on the call today. And before I do that, I just want to go over a quick agenda. As I mentioned, Jonathon will begin covering the CI program and an overview of the CI exam. And then we'll hear from Vicki McIntyre, who will go over the exam preparation using the CI learning system. She'll be sharing some very helpful self-study tips and test-taking tips. And then we'll provide some links and resources and do the drawing and questions at the end if time permits. So our first polling question, the question is, do you currently hold any of the following certifications? Jonathon will talk a little bit more about the challenge exams later, and so this question pertains to determining if you may qualify for any of the upcoming challenge exams that might be offered next year. So if you currently hold a CPA or CA certification or you're a Certified Information System Auditor, please select the radio button, and we'll just give everybody a couple moments to complete that one. Okay, I think we can present the results. All right, so it looks like we do have some CPAs and CAs on the call and also some CISAs. Again, Jonathon will be sharing some additional information if you're interested in learning more about the challenge exam that are offered next year. The next question is, when are you planning to take the CI exam? Is that within the next 6 months, within the next 12 months, or maybe you haven't decided quite yet? All right, let's go ahead and push those results out. All right, looks like the majority, over 55% of candidates on the call today are going to be taking the exam within the next 6 months. So this is a great timing for you to be able to attend the webinar and learn some special tips that might help you with your success on the exam. All right, next question is, have you already applied for the CI certification program, yes or no? All right, I think that's a pretty quick one to answer, so we can push those results out. All right, perfect. So for those of you who have not applied or registered for the CI exam program yet, Jonathan is going to share some additional information about the process on how to do so during his part of the presentation. So we'll share more shortly. And then I think we can move on to the next. The last question is for the survey is, how do you like to study? Are you somebody who prefers to study on your own? Are you somebody who would like to attend a classroom in-person instructor-led course and then learn from an instructor? Or perhaps an online instructor-led course might be a better option for you. So please select your preferred study option, and then we will move on next to Jonathan's presentation. Okay, I think we can push those results up. Excellent. Okay, so it looks like the majority of people prefer to study on their own. That's pretty consistent with what we hear from candidates. But there are definitely some people who prefer to study from an instructor, and we'll go over today some of the benefits of each of those study options and what may be available for you as a candidate. All right, so with that, I am going to turn it over to Jonathan to share more about the CI program.
Thank you, Kelly, and again, welcome to everybody who's joining us. It's always awesome to connect with prospective CIAs and people who are just kind of finding out about the IIA and certifications that we offer. Really good time to earn your certification, and we're glad that we can help you along the journey. So we want to start off and give you a little bit of context about the CIA. For some individuals, you may be earning the CIA because you've been told by your boss, hey, you need to do this. For others, you may know a little bit about the CIA and the IIA. You may have heard about it at a distance. And for some others, you guys have been in tune with us from the very beginning, and you understand the global footprint and the network that you join when you earn your CIA certification. So for anybody who this is new to, this map is a really good visual representation of that network that we are talking about. When you look around the globe, there's different continents, different countries that are represented. I mean, when you look at the numbers, there's a high amount of growth that's within North America, but also outside of North America. There's a high number of certified individuals. So this is great information to kind of have. Again, if you are just starting to the profession, you may be in a scenario where you're traveling a lot more, you're doing external audits. However, when you look at the map, you'll see that there are CIAs all over the world, all over the globe. And then if you need guidance, if you're looking to connect, or even, for some of you who are looking for a job, it's awesome to be able to see, hey, I am able to take this certification globally, and it's something that's accepted as well as respected around the globe. And here are some more numbers, because of course, if you are in auditing, you probably enjoy numbers, right? So the value of the CIA, and this is again, CAEs and audit leaders who are polled in this. So these are the people who are going to be making decisions on hiring. These are people who have their own teams. So this was very valuable insight that we were able to obtain from them in regards to the CIA. 84%, which is an overwhelming percentage, said that they believe that it added value. 70% of CAEs prefer to hire CIAs. And for anybody who has any, connection with a CAE, some of you, maybe you are a CAE, have been in a former professional lifetime, or for those who are being hired by their CAE, you realize there's not a ton of time that you have when you are running an entire team. So a way to kind of slingshot yourself to the top of that hiring pool, or to get the most eyes on your resume, or to get you in for an interview in a very competitive field, is to have the CIA. It lets them know that you understand the standards. It lets them know that you've gone through rigorous training, and the global organization that represents internal audit, you've done all of the necessary steps to pass their top certification. So it really does go a long way, and these numbers speak to that. I know that the 38,000 was kind of like a ballpark and an estimate as far as monetary value that you can assign to it. But for a lot of you, it may be more than that. For some of you starting off, it may be hard to quantify, what is the monetary value. But when you're looking at this, 38,000 is a pretty large sum of money, right? So if you have an opportunity to increase your earning potential doing the same job that somebody else is doing, however, because you have the CIA, you're going to be paid more. That's definitely an advantage. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of you guys are on the call today. So this is the certification process. And a lot of this is shown on our website. But I think this visual representation, again, makes it very, very simple to see how easy it is to get through the application and the testing process. So the first step is to submit an application. So for that, I think it was like 46% or so that have not applied into the program, it's this easy. You submit an application through your CCMS profile, and there is a link to CCMS on our website. If you haven't created a profile, you can create one. It takes about 5 minutes, and then you're able to apply into the certification program. Once you apply into the program, you submit your documentation, and it has to be submitted within 90 days of you paying for your application. And you're asking, so what documentation is needed? Very simple. Photo ID, which can be a government issued photo ID, passports, driver's license, country identification card. Those are very common examples of IDs. There are even some military IDs that we can accept. We do have a dedicated team that will assist you through the process. So whatever you upload, we'll be able to provide feedback and let you know if it was accepted. You would need proof of education. So depending on your level of education, that would determine how much experience you would need to evidence after you complete all of your testing. It can range from 2 to 5 or more years, but the majority of applicants, fall within that time period. One caveat is that if you do have a master's degree, that experience requirement is reduced to 1 year. So instead of 2 being the baseline, if you have a master's degree, it's only 1 year of experience that is required at the end of the process. So you have your photo ID, proof of education, and the last piece is a character reference. And that is a simple electronic form, takes about 30 seconds to fill out. You send it to your verifier. They will review and attest that, hey, I've known this individual and everything that they're saying in this application is true, and they are ready to take on this program. It's all done electronically, so the responses are almost immediate. That comes back into our certification management system, and you are automatically applied into the program once we receive those 3 documents. From there, it's just a matter of you testing, passing the exams. Once you submit your experience, you earn the certification. So it's very, very straightforward. And obviously, Vicki is going to give us some tips on how to pass that exam. But in reality, you're able to make it through the program as quickly or as lengthy as you'd like. We try to allow it to be tailored to each individual because everyone does learn at a different pace. But as far as the process, we make it as easy as possible. And then once you earn your certification, your hard-earned certification, it's just a matter of maintaining it, just like with any professional credential. So you would need to earn your CPE each year. And a lot of people, if you have more than 1 certification, they'll earn concurrent CPE. So they'll use some of the same CPEs for their CIA as they do for maybe their CPA or their CISA. I know some of you all have that as well. So we try to make it as easy as possible to maintain your certification. So this is a breakdown of the exam syllabus, and this is available, as you can see, on the website. One of the great parts about the syllabus is when you go to the page, there is a resource list, which gives you more information about each part. You can see the topics, the weighted percentage, which is the percentage that's next to the topic. And then also, where is some of the content derived from? So that resource list comes in handy, especially when you're preparing, when you've first started to study for the exam. In addition to your learning system, you can use that resource list to be even more prepared to pass it, hopefully on your first attempt. If we start with part one, we'll see this is just the foundations and the basics of internal audit, right? So this is what should you know as far as your principles. What is the IPPF or the standards that are written based on internal audit? More of like a theoretical understanding of internal audit. You have part two, you'll see there's two fewer domains. However, that means that the weighted percentage is higher. And if you're looking at that weighted percentage, you see that 40% is performing the engagement. So that lets us know that, hey, we're dealing more with day-to-day. What are the actions that we're performing? So part one starts the foundation with understanding it mentally. Part two is more the physical action, right? So you've knocked out part one and part two, you move on to part three. You'll see that there's only 4 domains, but that weighted percentage, it is a little bit different. Now business acumen becomes a higher part. Information technology, IT, which was not represented in any of the previous parts, are now represented. The thought process is that you've built the foundation. You've continued to grow and you've continued to expand your knowledge base. Now you're ready to take on that final, it's almost like a nucleus, right? So it's internal audit, but it's also parts of the business that you would need to know to successfully perform your job as an internal auditor. So this is all really good information. Again, Vicki's going to dive into it a little bit more and give us some more tips for passing the exam. But be sure to pay attention to this as you're doing your own self-study. Again, you have the learning system that you're going to have, but also utilize the website and the resource list to increase your chances of passing. And with that, I want to now turn it over to Vicki. Again, if you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We're happy to get back to you. And thanks for your time.
Great, thank you very much, Jonathan. And our next presenter will be Vicki McIntyre. So Vicki, we will turn it over to you to share more about how to prepare for the CIA exam. Okay, it looks like we might just have a little technical difficulty here, Vicki. If you make sure that you're not muted, and please bear with us here while we resolve this and hopefully be right back on. Okay, again, I apologize for the technical difficulty. Vicki is actually going to try dialing in another way. There's some technical problems here, so thanks very much for your patience, and we will be with you shortly.
Hey, Kelly, while we are waiting for Vicki to dial in, there was just one question that had come in directly that I was going to answer, and it was inquiring about the CIA challenge exam. And this goes back to what Kelly had said originally, which was, hey, is there anybody in attendance who has their CA chartered accountant certification, or anybody who has the CISA. And the reason for this question is because there is an accelerated way to earn the CIA, and it is a one-part challenge exam. A lot of the preparation is still going to be the same. So again, what you're learning today does tie into the content. However, it's structured different. So instead of it being just a three-part individual exam that's taken, it is a one-part challenge exam. So it consists of parts 1, parts 2, and parts 3, all on one single exam setting. It's about 150 questions total. So you can imagine how tough those questions are going to be. But again, if you've done the preparation and you already hold, again, the chartered accountant or the CISA, then the expectation is that you're probably familiar with some of the concepts, and your likelihood of passing that challenge exam is a lot better than if it were like a novice or a brand new internal auditor that's starting. So if you want more information on the challenge exam, it is available on the website. If you navigate to the IA webpage, and I know we're going to send out this deck as well, under the certification tab, you will see a section specifically for the challenge exam, and you can learn more information, look at the syllabus the same way as we went over for the three-part exam, and determine if it's something that would fit right for your study needs or for your timeline. So just wanted to throw that out there and answer that question. And again, please continue to send your questions in, and we'll be more than happy to get back.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jonathan. While we're waiting for Vicki, why don't we just go through a couple more questions that have come in instead of saving these till the end. One question for you, Jonathan, is somebody asked, will I be able to test from home throughout the end of this year and next year?
Yes. So one of the great parts about the testing environment that we have, which is Pearson VUE, is called OnVUE. So that allows you to take the exam remotely. And for those of you who said in the previous poll, hey, I'd rather go in person and test, that's fine as well. However, we have an option for you to test online. It can be from the comfort of your home. It can be from your office. As long as you have a clear workspace and solid internet, I would encourage you to check the website requirements. So you see, the tech is pretty basic. So as long as you have an up-to-date computer, you should be able to test online, but just verify that you meet those requirements. And then your exam can be administered remotely. And that's available for the CIA Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Jonathan, another question for you. Somebody asked, do I need to take the exam parts in sequential order?
No, you don't. You're able to start with any exam part. So, and this is pretty interesting because there is a strategy, right? So if you are someone who has experience in internal audit, maybe you've been working in an audit shop for 10 years and you're very familiar with the IPPF and the principles, and really you think it would be easier to start with the practical application because it's something that you do day to day. It's part of your everyday job. You're absolutely able to start with Part 2, for instance, if you'd like. Or for some individuals who are like fresh out of a master's program, that'll cover a lot of what is in Part 3, right? So like the business acumen, even some of the IT components and the infrastructure, you're able to start with Part 3 if you'd like. I would say most individuals probably do start with Part 1 because, again, if you're familiar with the mental parts of it, then it's probably something that you already know. So it's more likely that you'll pass to Part 1 a lot easier. But you're free to design your study plan however you'd like.
Perfect. Great. Well, I think we are good to go. Vicki is back. The technical difficulties have been worked out. So again, thank you so much for your patience. And I will turn it over to Vicki for the exam preparation section.
Thank you, Kelly. Hopefully this is working well. Can you give me a clue that we're doing okay? All good. Okay, great. I apologize, everyone. I have been on, just this week, I've been on Zoom, I've been on Teams, I've been on WebEx, I've been on Adobe Connect, and I've been on GoToWebinar, and now we're on on 24. So my technology never knows what system I'm on, and sometimes it's hard to get connected. So let's talk about CIA exam prep. I have been teaching the IIA's CIA learning system for about 12 years now, and I have helped hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of people successfully earn their CIA certification. I am a CIA, very proud to be a CIA. I'm also a CPA licensed in the state of California. I have a number of other certifications and licenses, but this is by far my favorite. The IIA CIA learning system was going to provide you with a personalized study experience. You can follow an individualized study plan that you are going to get by your assessment tool in the learning system. It's going to prioritize the content based on your personal knowledge gaps that are identified in your pretest. Or you can start with the CIA exam syllabus and go right through section by section, topic by topic, and move through that way. One of the unique features of the IIA's learning system is that it allows you to prioritize the content based on your weaker areas. It also has micro-learning segments. So these smaller content segments with estimated study times that might be just 3 or 5 minutes. This allows you to really capitalize on idle time. When you have 10 or 15 minutes, you can just log on, get into the learning system, and get to work. And you can take advantage of a little bit of downtime for your studying. The system is very convenient. It has been designed for mobile devices, so you can access your materials 24/7. Travel light with your online access with any mobile device or tablet or computer. You just log on and you pick up right where you left off. Another great benefit of the learning system is that IIA members can click right through the links directly to the standards and the various pieces of guidance that are going to support your learning experience. So that's another great advantage of the learning system. You can choose your learning option. We just saw in the poll that a lot of you prefer to self-study. So again, the learning system is online, remote-ready, self-paced on your own schedule. But a lot of people don't stay focused. They find that the accountability element might be missing, and so they prefer to do an instructor-led course. And we have these courses through the virtual space, the IIA.org, go to the Learning tab, and you can find courses there. They're offered continuously, like very frequently in the virtual space. I'm currently wrapping up a Part 2 course tomorrow afternoon, in fact. The IIA uses top-level CIA instructors. All of us are certified internal auditors, and many of the instructors, like myself, have a number of other professional licenses and certifications, and we're highly experienced in the field. We've been chief audit executives, we've run audit departments, public sector, private sector, nonprofit, so really good instructors. I'm very proud to be part of this peer group of professional educators. The instructor-led courses are going to follow the syllabus and allow for peer discussion. So you'll be learning from the others in the class, and that can be an advantage to some people who maybe aren't as successful with self-study. The IIA also offers corporate experience where the instructor will come to your location, and this allows for customized training for the individual audit activities. The learning system offers the volume savings on 5 or more CIA learning systems purchased. And again, the corporate environment, this can be self-study as well. So what are the steps to success? First of all, you want to assess where you are today. You want to get that baseline understanding of where you are in terms of your strengths and weaknesses so that you can maximize your study time and make it the most efficient for you. So you would complete the online pretest. This is going to help you understand your initial strengths and weaknesses. It's a 50-question multiple choice quiz. It's a quest also, right? You're on a quest to earn your CIA certification. So a quest, that's a new word, right? A combination between a quiz and a test. So you're on a quest to earn your CIA certification. So you're going to do this 50-question multiple choice pretest, and you will get a summary of your results by syllabus topic. And then you can go back and review the questions and the rationales for the correct answers versus, you might get some insight into why you unsuccessfully answered the question. So this is a great feature of the learning system. After the assessment, then you will choose your study path. So your pretest results are going to determine your recommended study path, which are going to prioritize those topics where you need the most work. You can also choose to study in the order of the CIA exam syllabus and the printed book. So it's entirely up to you. Or you can do a little of each, depending on where your strengths and weaknesses are. If you've been working for an audit team that very closely follows the IIA's professional practices framework, and you follow the Red Book, you have a robust quality assurance and improvement program, then you're probably going to do very, very well on parts 1 and 2. Part 1 sets the stage for the entire content. It gives you the attribute standards, professional proficiency and due professional care, independence and objectivity, talks about the requirement to have a charter and the quality assurance and improvement program. That's part 1. You're going to be really familiar with that if you work for a Red Book audit activity. Likewise, for part 2 is all audit methodology, how we perform the work. But you may have some opportunities for improvement in part 3. This is the business acumen topic, the IT, the information security, all of the financial management topics, and so forth. So you can pick and choose the topics and how you're going to invest your time. So with the IIA's CIA learning system, you can read online or you can download the content to your device. You can also opt for printed books. If you like to have the book in your hand, you like to highlight, write on the margins, underline all of that stuff, then, the printed books are available to you. And the learning system gives you time estimates for each syllabus topic. So that's a great tool for you in terms of budgeting your time and your good time management. The topics are presented in these small sessions, small study segments for study efficiency. And if you're still not sure of a topic after you have completed the reading, then you can link directly to additional resources on the IIA's website. You can go straight to the standards, the interpretations of the standards. You can go to the implementation guidance. So it's a great way to study, to get reinforcement on those topics where you're not quite so sure that you've got it mastered. Quizzes. So after you have completed several of these syllabus topics, you will complete an online quiz. All of the questions are multiple choice with 4 answer options, just like your CIA exam. You choose the one best answer, and that's an important takeaway. Important to choose the best answer. You may see 2 answers that are correct, but our job as internal auditors is to follow our professional standards and exercise professional judgment. So some of the questions will be oriented around professional judgment, where yes, there are 2 correct answers, but your job is to choose the best answer based on what you know about the standards, the guidance, what you've learned through the learning system, and your good professional judgment based on your work experience. So, again, all the questions are multiple choice. You click OK to see the correct answer and the rationale for why it's the best available answer. So after each individual quiz question, you'll get feedback. You'll see the correct answer and the explanation. And a great piece of this learning system is a direct reference to where you can find more information on that topic in your reading materials. Another great attribute of the learning system is the flashcard. Flashcards in the glossary. The glossary is basically a CIA dictionary. The flashcards, though, I've had continuous feedback from students over more than a decade. The flashcards are a great learning advantage for students. You can download them, you can print them, you can augment them, so supplement them with the information that you have been reading. And we know from adult learning theory that the more touch points we have with a topic, the more our learning is reinforced, and it helps with memory. So if you're reading a term on a flashcard and you dig deep and recall what you read in your textbook, jot down as many notes as you can on the flashcard. If you're drawing a blank and you don't remember the term, go back to your materials, read on the topic again, and then add some bullet points to that flashcard. And that's going to really help you to commit the content to memory. So writing your own flashcards is, or supplementing these flashcards is a great study tool. We often get the question, well, how long am I going to have to study? This is probably one of the most frequently asked questions. One question is oriented around the duration of study. So if I'm tackling part 1, am I going to need 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks? That depends on you. You must be realistic with your time commitment to this effort. You know what you have as far as your personal life, your work life, your family. Maybe you're involved in volunteerism through your church or a community organization. You know how much time you realistically have to commit to your study. So that's going to determine the duration of study. If you can do 10 hours a week for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, you're probably going to take 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. If you can only commit 3 or 4 hours a week, it's going to take you, the duration of study is going to be longer. How much time do we think we're going to need to study? This is largely dependent on how recently you've finished your university work. So how recently you have been in school. Obviously, if you've been in school, you're used to studying, you're used to note-taking, you're used to memorizing content, you're used to applying content to a practical experience, and you're used to test-taking. So if you've come out of school very recently, you're going to have an advantage. The time that you should expect to study is also going to be based on your years of experience in internal audit, or even other types of audit, like public accounting experience. You're used to audit methodology. It's going to, for your Part 3 study, it's going to determine, your time to study is going to be determined by your expertise in accounting, finance, and IT security. It's also going to be determined by your study method. Are you going to do a group instructor-led class, or are you going to study entirely independently? And then, of course, how quickly you can read and comprehend the various topics in the syllabus. So for me, when I took my CIA exams, I studied for Part 1 and Part 2 together. That worked out very well for me. I took Part 1 in the morning and Part 2 exam in the afternoon on the same day and was successful on both. And for me, now I was pretty experienced. It took me about 50 hours to study for Parts 1 and 2 together. My Part 3, however, I had this intense fear of failure because of the IT topics. I had never done an IT audit. I'm a baby boomer, so, when I was born, we had the rotary dial phones that plugged in a wall. And the IT topics really intimidated me. So I studied closer to 80 hours for Part 3 in spite of being a CPA. So I already had all the finance and accounting topics nailed down. But again, I didn't want to fail. I studied, I committed, and I passed Part 3 on the first attempt as well. So this is kind of what you see on the slide, 40 hours for Part 1, 40 for Part 2, and then about 50 plus for Part 3. But really, it's going to depend on your experience, your familiarity with the IPPS, and how recently you've been studying. The practice exam. This is another excellent feature of the IIA's CIA learning system. This practice exam will give you very much a simulation of what your actual CIA exam is going to feel like. It's timed. So, for example, you have 2.5 hours for Part 1, or you have 2 hours for Parts 2 and 3. So it's timed for you to complete all of your exam questions. The time remaining is at the bottom right-hand corner. You see that 2 hours, 29 minutes, 36 seconds. So obviously this CIA candidate just logged on and started their exam. So the time clock will be ticking down just like it will during your actual exam experience. You also see the lighter blue rectangle in the middle bottom with the flag on it. You'll have the option to flag questions that you want to return to after completing the exam. And that's a great benefit of the IIA CIA learning system, is that you'll have this, emulation of exactly what your exam experience is going to be like. So for flagging questions, I want to make a point. After you have submitted all your questions, you'll get a readout on the screen that shows you all of those exam questions that you've answered, any that you left unanswered, and those that you flagged because you were unsure of them and you need to go back to them and revisit those questions. So this is a great feature. Now we're going to go to a sample question. And this is an interesting question because when people read this question, they think, oh, this is a fraud question. Which are the fraudulent entries? And then you read on further. To conceal the theft of an asset. And then you see debits and credits. Okay, so this is a combination question. It's an accounting question as well as a fraud question. You could see a fraud question in any one of the 3 parts, any of the 3 exams. Understanding fraud red flags, knowing how to test for fraud, being able to do a fraud risk assessment, that is foundational for internal audit practice. And our standards tell us that we need to consider fraud in every assurance engagement that we're doing. So you might see a fraud question in any one of the 3 parts. In this example, this is, it has an orientation around an accounting question with the debits and credits. So you want to focus on the key words. Fraudulent entries, most likely to be made to conceal the theft of an asset. So to hide something that someone has stolen. So in this instance, the correct answer is answer A, debit an expense account and credit the asset. So this requires you to understand the distinction between the balance sheet and the profit and loss accounts in a general ledger. So knowing that if a fraud perpetrator stole an asset, they're going to want to get it off the books. They're going to want to eliminate it from the asset, from the balance sheet. So that requires crediting the asset. And then where can they most likely hide it? Well, most fraud perpetrators will hide their theft by charging it in an expense account. That is the place where it is least likely to be discovered. Okay? So you want to look for those keywords, choose the best answer. Another consideration here would be separation of duties. So I like to encourage students to think beyond the question and the answer. Think, what is the control weakness that would have allowed this to occur, right? So this would be inadequate segregation of duties. Because if I'm a fraud perpetrator and I have access to the books and records in the accounting systems, and I can also take the money, I also have access to the bank account, that is not good segregation of duties, which is the number one control weakness around embezzlement or theft of inventory or cash or any organization asset. So study tips. Let's get to the meat of the matter here. Choose the best study method for you. Be thoughtful and be reasonable about how you study best. Be realistic. Don't procrastinate. I tell my students the number one reason that my students don't earn their CIA certification is procrastination. They finish the course of study and then, in the class, and then they don't study. They don't stay with it. They don't have a systematic, organized, study regimen where they have committed their study time to their calendar and shown up for their appointments. So set your study plan, put it on your calendar, and treat it like a self-study university course. You get to pick the date of your final exam, which is when you're going to sit for your actual CIA exam. So set your study plan, commit it to your calendar, and show up for your appointments. This is all about you. It's all about your commitment to your career path and your personal success. Use those flashcards. I talked quite a bit about those. Focus on proficiency areas. So the exam topics are broken out by basic topic content and proficiency topic content. The proficiency topics are more difficult. They require analysis and synthesis of information and exercising judgment in order to answer the best answer of the four choices. Go beyond memorization, so understand the practical application of the content. You cannot be successful on your CIA exams through memorization. Maybe if you have a photographic memory, but you really do need to understand the application of our principles-based standards. You want to be prepared for your Pearson VUE exam experience in the computer-based test format. Pay attention to the standards, the professional practices framework. Come up with an audit manual table of contents. When you feel that you're ready to take your exam, whether it's part 1 or part 2, write a table of contents for an internal audit policy and procedure manual. And then go back and look at where you have missed topics or content. This is going to help reinforce that you've covered the entire gamut of the topics that you're going to see on your exam. And consider your work experience. Consider, your real life work experience. You're going to approach the CIA exam as though you have a new job with a Fortune 500 company. You have a chief audit executive that reports directly to an audit committee of the board of directors. You have a larger audit department with varying staff levels. You will have an advantage if you have experience in accounting or accounts payable or procurement to pay cycle or sales and accounts receivable and collections or purchasing, okay? You will have an advantage if you already have an understanding here. A few more tips then. So test-taking tips, if you see a very verbose exam question, in other words, the question portion of the item is very lengthy. Maybe it's 5 or 6 sentences. Read the last sentence the sentence with the question mark at the end, before you read all the details. Read the question. If you can anticipate the answer, think about the answer. Read your 4 answer options. Have a tentative response that you're going to choose. Then go back and read all the details. Oftentimes, all those details are not necessary in order to be able to successfully answer the question correctly. So read the question first so that you know what you're looking for. You know the question that you're trying to answer. Look for key words, the qualifiers, words like all or except for or not likely or least likely. Look for those clues. Our number 1 test-taking tip is to read the question. Make sure you read the question. If you miss a word like least likely, right? You miss the word least, and you're looking for the most likely, you're not going to answer it correctly, clearly. So anticipate your answer before you read the answer options. The 4th bullet here, answer broadly and globally. Remember, Jonathon said at the onset of our talk today, this is a global profession, and the CIA certification is portable all over the world. It's recognized as the gold standard for the internal audit professional all over the world. Therefore, think globally, think broadly. If you've been working in a government audit activity your entire career, you're going to have to shift a bit to more of a private company orientation. If you've been working in financial services for your entire career, you're going to have to think more broadly. Think about governance, risk, and control in a manufacturing company or a distribution organization. Think about a fulfillment company or a tech company like Amazon Web Services or Amazon. So think broadly and globally. Eliminate the obvious incorrect answers. Trust your first impressions. Don't overanalyze. Manage your time. I recommend that when you are practicing your quiz questions, monitor your time at 1 minute per question. Develop a rhythm of 1 minute per question. Force yourself to pick an answer and move on. You don't want to get analysis paralysis and burn time and get to the end of the exam and be unsuccessful just because you couldn't get to the last 6 or 8 questions. Developing the rhythm of 1 minute per question will build in a buffer of time at the end of your exam. On part 1, you have 125 questions. That's 125 minutes. That's just over 2 hours. But you have 2.5 hours to complete your exam. This builds in that time buffer so you can go back and revisit those questions that you flagged. Budget your time. Don't rush. Be well rested. Eat a good meal. Be comfortable for the exam. Make sure you arrive early. Make sure you have your ID, particularly if you have changed your name. The name that you have in the IIA's CCMS, that's the name that your identification must reflect. So make sure that you have the ID so that the proctor at the Pearson VUE Exam Center can confirm who you are. Be prepared to lock all of your personal effects in a locker. When you enter the exam room, you won't be able to take a wallet or your watch or your phone. Some Pearson VUE exam sites will even check your eyeglasses, to make sure that you don't have cameras and that you don't have technology in your eyeglasses. So just be prepared for the exam experience. And the IIA-CIA learning system gives you a great advantage with that final exam experience, just like the Pearson VUE. So with that, Kelly, I think that's about all I have. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can share how people can get the learning system. Oh, wait. Great. I'm sorry. We have another practice question. I'm a little premature. Here's one. Determining the engagement objectives has been met is ultimately the responsibility of who? So So think about this for a moment, and I will tell you on your Part 1 and Part 2 exams, you're going to have a lot of questions on roles and responsibilities. Who's responsible for what? So think broadly and globally. Again, you might be in an audit shop where you have 50 auditors. Far and away, at least throughout the U.S., most audit shops are something like 8 people or less. Something like 80% of the audit shops have 8 people or less. So think in terms of ultimate responsibility. That's exactly what this is asking. Who has the ultimate responsibility? Don't think about your, 50 or 60-person audit shop. Think about a smaller audit shop as well. So the correct answer, according to the standards, is going to be the chief audit executive. Okay? Certainly not the audit committee, not the individual auditor, not the supervisor, but rather the CAE. And this is found in Standard 2340. Okay, Kelly, you're up. Thanks so much.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Vicki, for sharing all those helpful exam tips. That was great. All right, so now we are going to do a drawing for a winner who will be able to choose a Part 1, 2, or 3 online e-seminar course. So we are going to just do a random drawing here of somebody on the call, and it looks like the winner is Beatrice Mugo. So Beatrice, we will reach out to you directly. Congratulations. And you may be able to choose your online e-seminar, and we'll contact you so you can get signed up. Congratulations. Okay, also, as a special treat for being on the call today, we would like to offer you a special discount, which will be available through tomorrow. And this is an early access to our Black Friday upcoming sale. So you will be able to receive 25% off on the CI Learning System materials. That applies to both the full kits and the individual parts and the printed books. The code that you would want to use, if you go to learnci.com, when you check out, you can put the code EARLY25 in this website, and you will be able to have 25% off the learning system. And we're also going to send a follow-up email out after this presentation, and that will include this code, so you'll have it. So just to give you an overview of those discounts available, if you are an IA member, you would be able to normally purchase the learning system for $795 US, and with this discount, it would be discounted down to $596. So it's an excellent discount, the lowest price we offer throughout the year. And again, that's available through tomorrow, so make sure not to miss that special discount. If a number of people have asked about where to find the listings for the instructor-led course options for both the online and the in-person. So you may find those by going to learnci.com and clicking on course listings, or you can use this URL there, and a listing of all the courses around the world is found there. And all of those courses, just so you're aware, include the CI Learning System materials. So you don't need to purchase those separately. That will be included as part of your course registration fee. Okay, a couple other housekeeping notes here to wrap up. Again, remember the Black Friday early discount code is EARLY25. If you have a group of 5 or more, if you have a team of people, we do have additional discounts available. So please feel free to reach out to my colleague, Mike Downs. His email is listed here, mike.downs@bi.org, and he can provide you additional information about training for your team. And then finally, when you earn your CIA certification, which I'm sure you will, make sure to maintain your certification after all that hard work. So practicing CIAs need to submit 40 hours of CPEs every year, and if you are a non-practicing CIA, you need to submit 20 hours every year. So make sure not to miss those deadlines after you've completed your certification. And then finally here, we have a link to share. If you would like to get a copy of these slides and access a recording of the webinar, you can go to learnci.com/webinar-archive, Just give us a couple days and it will be posted there for you to access. And I know we've run out of time for questions. We've been answering a lot of them in the background. But if we did not get to your question yet, we will make sure to follow up with you directly. So thanks for permitting that, and just be patient here. Give us a couple days, and we'll make sure to get back to you. But other than that, we are at the conclusion of today's broadcast. So many thanks to our presenters today for a great program. We're going to display the post-event survey to you. But if you don't see the survey, please go to the resources tab on your console where you can locate the survey link. But thank you again. Stay safe and have a great day.